Welcome to our webinar today. This is the very first introductory workshop on mind sequencing, and I'm going to start with probably an unexpected and unusual place, and that is with a children's poem. And it goes something like this. Listen to the mustn'ts, child, listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossible, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be. In that poem, Shel Silverstein talks to young children about believing in big things, about even believing in the impossible. And that's where I would like to start this as well. I want you to imagine a perfect day where you had a profound sense of well-being all day. No stress, no anger, no regret, no resentment, no doubt, no discouragement, no shadow energy of any kind, just peace and joy and strength and wisdom and love the entire day. Just imagine that you were 100% positive, that you were making incredible progress on your inner journey, and that you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were stronger, wiser, more peaceful, joyful, and loving today than you had ever been before in your entire life. And you knew that life was just going to get better and better and better every day, every month, every year. Imagine that you had complete control over your mind and thereby your inner state of being. And at the moment you became aware of any negative energy or stress, that you simply shifted back into a positive state, such that every time that you had a sense of awareness, it became an opportunity for awakening. I really believe that that's the promise of mind sequencing. A long, long time ago, I was an angry young man. I used to get upset a lot. Like 98% of the time I was upset a lot. And those of you who know me know that I am a bit of an analyst and a guy that measures all kinds of things. If we are awake 16 hours and 40 minutes a day, that's 1,000 minutes in a day. So 1% of that day is 10 minutes. And that was my experience. I used to be angry and upset or grumpy or just out of sorts, all but about 20 minutes of every single day. And some of those times I was really angry and really, really upset. But I decided at the age of 19 to do something about it, and I started meditating, and it really did help a lot. I made considerable progress over the course of about the next 15 years or so. I had some beautiful peak experiences during that time where I was just filled with love and light and joy and laughter, but progress was also pretty darn slow and pretty darn frustrating. I had an opportunity just about a month ago to find some journal entries that I had written to myself from 1985 through 1992. So these is like a time capsule from 30 years ago or so. And what I found in those entries was some absolutely beautiful expressions of being in the spirit, of feeling like I was connected to joyful energy and really filled with positive energy. But I also found a lot of expressions of being angry and frustrated and disappointing and upset. There were some of them that even caused me to quit meditating and pursuing any sort of personal growth or development for weeks or even months at a time. One of them just, touched my heart incredibly when I wrote a journal entry about having yelled at my wife today, and how disappointed I was after years and years and years on my journey that I would get to that point to where I would get triggered and get angry and yell at her. It was like, it was devastating to me, devastating to the point that I gave up meditation and gave up any hope of becoming a better person for literally months. And I remained that 2% jerk for decades. Now, the good news is that, of course, over a period of about 15 years, with meditation and with reading good books and doing what I could to focus on development, I flipped that measurement just incredibly. I went from being only happy 2% of the time to only being miserable and angry 2% of the time. But that was still 20 minutes a day that I was getting angry and just not being the person that I wanted to be. And also, that would typically cause me to be upset for many, many minutes thereafter. And then I had a breakthrough. On Sunday morning, October 31st, 2004, I had what I usually had, which was a grumpy morning. I got out of bed, I went down to my computer, and I thought to myself, golly, I'm grumpy this morning. If I could just remember all of the things that I knew to be true, that I know that I wouldn't be grumpy. I just know that I would break through this grumpiness and this pattern of being upset some amount of time every day. And I thought to ask myself the question, well, if you were going to remember those things, what is it that you would remember? And I began to write a little note to myself. I wrote down, well, I would remember, who I was in relationship to other people. I was a husband and a brother and a cousin and a father and an uncle to a lot of people. I'd remember where I was on this incredible, beautiful planet Earth with its trees and mountains and forests and oceans and plains and prairies. And I'd remember, when I was on the timeline of my life. I'm a little closer to the end of that now than I was, 15 years ago, whenever I had that awakening moment. But over time, I created a 45-minute self-guided meditation that became to me my magic pill. It was by far more powerful than any meditation that I'd had before. It was a message to myself, a message from my higher self to my lower self about remember these things and you will shift your energy. I remember not wanting to jump on an airplane because the message was so valuable to me that I just couldn't bear the thought of dying in a plane crash sometime without leaving this message for my children. And so I recorded it and created a CD, and a 45-minute inspirational CD message to myself called Remember. And I listened to it, and I listened to it, and I listened to it once or twice a day. In the mornings when I got up, in the car on the way to work, in the car on the way back from work. And every time I did, it shifted my energy into a very high positive state. I remember that there were only a couple of times that I needed to listen to it twice in a row in order to shift my energy high. It was, as I said earlier, my magic pill, and I just loved it. And that meditation, by the way, is available on our website. Over some period of time, I began to track my progress. I began to wonder, was I really getting better? Was I finally making progress on my journey after having been stalled for nearly 20 years? Again, the first 15 years of my journey, I made great progress. And then literally the next 20 years on my journey, I hardly made progress at all until I had the breakthrough of the Remember CD. And I wondered, was it really working? Was I really getting better? And so I began a daily self-reflection process, and every morning since September of 2007. So for the last 4,000 mornings in a row, I've got up and asked myself questions like, did I get angry yesterday? Did I have any times of being grumpy or serious? And I began to notice some patterns and began to really get the value from that daily self-reflection really very quickly. And a couple of months after that, I started giving myself a score. I started saying, on a scale of 1 to 10, how was yesterday compared to the best day I've ever had in my life, compared to a scale that I created for myself? And what I saw was just wonderful. It was this picture I call the progression of life, having these ups and these downs, day to day to day, but steadily, gradually seeing a trend line with a positive slope. That I knew that I was getting better because my average at the end of the year was an 8.6. And when I started the year, it was only an 8.4. And I was, this picture, when it emerged, literally gave me hope that I was on the right track. I just knew that by focusing more and more time and attention and by focusing on this sequence of thought and action, that I was making progress on my journey, and it was incredibly valuable to me. I created other sequences and insights. Elevation was a nice 9-step pattern. I created a 5-step path, an 11-step path. I began adding a physical component to these sequences where I would adjust my posture, where I would incorporate breathing and other techniques like emotional freedom technique and tapping and stretching and other kinds of things. I wrote songs that I sang to myself, dozens of times a day. I would sing songs about becoming the angel within and shifting the energy and, being one with the sacred flow of life and watching and observing everything that was going on around me. And what I noticed was something I called the practice of awakening. And that practice of awakening meant that awakening was really a skill, that being in a great mood, feeling powerful and happy was a skill. It was a learned behavior, that every time I shifted my energy, I got better at it. In fact, I like to say that every time you awaken and take a few minutes to shift your energy in a positive direction, to raise your vibration, to increase your consciousness, to lift your spirits, it not only pays off immediately, but it pays off every day for the rest of your life, because you are teaching yourself at a deep, deep subconscious level that you have the power to do that. You are wearing a rut in the concrete so that that path becomes proven. It becomes very comfortable to you. You just know that you can do that. And you're teaching this inner frightened child that it doesn't have to stay stressed out, that the child doesn't have to stay angry or discouraged or upset or full of doubt or any other type of shadow energy. I began to get a lot of other insights and nuggets to go along with the Remember CD and began to publish them. In 2010, I published a book called The Practice of Awakening. In 2013, I published The Practice of Awakening 2, The First Light of Joy, which became an Amazon bestseller. And I began to get all kinds of additional insights, 2 and 3 steps paths back to spirit. And a really nice pattern emerged along with some key insights about levels of consciousness and moving between them. I even developed a 45-step ultimate sequence, during that time. And I practiced a lot during the day. In fact, I used to say that I practiced at every shift of attention. Every time that I would get up from my chair, every time that I would go get a drink of water or go to the bathroom, I would practice shifting my energy up and lifting my consciousness and getting into a more positive state. And by doing that, I created a new form of meditation for myself. Sequences of thought and action. They aren't just thoughts, but it's also emotions. It's also physical grounding. It's shifting the entire state of being through purposeful, tactical meditations. And that continued for years and years and years and years until I had this leveling up experience last December. If you remember that previous graph that we showed that showed a really nice progression, last December, I had this leveling up experience. If you can see it up here towards the right of it. This, by the way, is a week-by-week average of all of the scores that I gave myself throughout 2018. And there in the end of December, I had just an incredible experience that I knew that I at that time, I really knew that I was ready to share this with the world. So that's what I'm doing. I want to contrast this a little bit with other common meditation techniques. I don't know if you've experienced this or not, but every once in a while I go to a group and they say, let's meditate. But when they say let's meditate, they often mean different things. And I have categorized all of those different types of meditation techniques into 5 different types of meditation. So the first one is contemplation. My sister belongs to a spiritual community, and I was talking to her just a couple of months ago, and I asked her about, do you ever meditate? And she says, yeah, we meditate a lot in my spiritual community. And I says, well, what do you do? And she says, well, when we meditate, we take a Bible verse and we just sit in quiet place and we think about it. That's what meditation was to her. It was contemplation. And we hear this a lot. Well, let me meditate on that. What they mean is that they're going to sit in quiet place, listen for a little bit in intuitive guidance perhaps, but it's contemplation. It's not like other forms of meditation. Another common form of meditation is a guided meditation, where you're listening to the voice of somebody that says, imagine yourself, in your room, and imagine a big ball of golden light that surrounds you. And now we're going to go on a journey in your mind. We're going to step out into a beautiful garden. We're going to see a beautiful river that flows by. We're going to see great big trees, mountains. Anyway, they take you on this journey, through an imaginary world to guide you in your imagination into feeling in a particular place. A variation on that is self-guided meditation, where you do it for yourself. In fact, by the way, the very first type of meditation that ever worked for me was a self-guided meditation of full body relaxation, where I started relaxing my toes and then my ankles and then my lower legs and then my knees, and worked my way up through my body and to my shoulders and down over into my arms and hands and fingers, and back up through the back of my neck and over the top of my head and back up into my nose and into my jaw, which is where I was carrying a lot of tension in those days. That self-guided meditation technique was really what allowed me to relax and release a tremendous amount of stress in my life. The other types of meditation are focused attention. So focused attention can happen with yoga. It can happen with breathing exercises. It can happen with Tai Chi. It can happen with mantra-based and affirmation-based meditations, where we focus our attention on something, typically something that we are doing, breathing, moving our body in some way, holding our body in a particular position, and letting all of the other thoughts and other feelings go to the side. And then the fifth type of meditation is awareness or mindfulness. And with awareness and mindfulness meditations, you simply sit in a chair or sit in a comfortable position and watch your thoughts and feelings. The admonition is that when a thought comes up and you see it bubble to the surface, you just note that, hey, I'm having that thought, and you love it, let it go. You don't follow that thought or follow that feeling at all, but you become detached and transcendent of those thoughts and those feelings. And every single one of these types of meditation can be wonderful and beautiful. In fact, I practiced, I'm sure I practiced one or more of those practically every day for the last 40 years or so. But they have a lot of things in common. Typically, they take time from 5 to 60 minutes. They usually require closing your eyes. They're ideally done in quiet surroundings. And they're oftentimes quite challenging for people who are thinking all the time. Again, as I said, when I first started, I was an angry young man with screaming thoughts in my head. I could not do mindfulness. I couldn't do affirmations. I couldn't do breathing exercises. Self-guided meditations didn't work because I would be off thinking of something else very, very quickly. And even guided meditations didn't work because I was used to 2 or 3 very loud, angry streams of thought at the same time. And the only thing that worked for me was that self-guided relaxation meditation. But what we find with days of meditation, which is typically recommended once in the morning and once in the evening, that we get a lift in the morning and we get a lift every evening, but it's not enough to make rapid progress on your journey. You can get stuck like I did for 20 years. For 20 years, I was waking up and having a meditation in the morning that lifted me into positive energy. I'd go throughout the day and, hey, maybe somebody said something nice to me that really took my spirits up, or somebody said something really nasty to me and I responded with anger and being upset, went to lunch, had a nice lunch, raised my spirits a little bit, came back and had a grumpy, frumpy afternoon until I was able to go home and play some music in my car and maybe go home and relax and meditate for another 20 minutes, but never really getting to the place that I got first thing in the morning. Having a nice meal, having some interaction with the kids, maybe having a sip of scotch or a beer later on in the evening. And that was the day. And this was the pattern of my days for literally 20 years. until I discovered mind sequencing. Until I discovered mind sequencing purposeful meditations that take anywhere from 5 seconds to 45 minutes that I could use anytime and anywhere, when I was at work, when I was at play, on the way to a meeting, during a meeting, driving in my car, during a conversation. I could use these mind sequencing purposeful meditations to really help me out during the times when I needed the most. Mind sequencing purposeful meditations leverage the power of your intelligence instead of ignoring it. They're very easy to learn. They become more effective the more that you use them. They can be customized. In fact, we encourage everybody to customize them to their own language and their own experience. The bottom line is what you do to lift your spirits the other 95% of the day means a lot. If you're meditating 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon, that's 4% of your day you're spending in meditation, and the rest of the time you're not. If you want to be able to make great progress and be able to relieve your stress right away, you need tools that you can use anytime and anywhere, that you can use that other 95% of the day. Because as our good friend Buddha says, what you think you become, what you feel you will attract, what you imagine you will create. And that other 95% of the day matters. Let's dig into mind sequencing a little bit and define it a little bit. First, what I mean by the mind. The mind is your awareness. It's the focus of your attention. It's your emotions. It's your thoughts. It's your imagination. It is your internal environment. Your inner state of being is what I call the mind. Sequencing, then, is a progression of actions and states. Sequencings are easy step-by-step progress, like climbing up a ladder or walking upstairs, and they're always very purposeful. You don't start out on a sequence to get from point A to point B unless there's a point B. So then mind sequencing is the process of shifting your internal state of being through a series of small and easy steps of thought and action to achieve an intentional outcome. Let's do some of those. Let me show you some examples here. And I trust that these are examples that you can use every day for the rest of your life. The first one is really simple. It's called align, breathe, and smile. First step is align. So I want you, as you're listening to this, just align your posture a little bit. Sit up a little bit straighter in your chair, and then I want you to take a breath and kind of breathe it out, and then smile just a little bit. Align, breathe, and smile takes only 5 seconds. You can use it anytime, anywhere. It will lift you up just a little bit and can be repeated as often as you want. It's like having a little step stool that you can use anytime that you want. I do this 10, 15, 20 times a day, just as I begin to notice that my posture isn't what it should be, as I notice that my energy's just a little bit less than it could be. I just do an align, a breathe, and a smile. Thich Nhat Hanh says that sometimes it's our joy that creates our smiles, and sometimes it's our smiles that creates our joy. And so this simple little technique of shifting your body, of smiling, can help lift your energy, can be a stepping stool up a little bit. Here's another real simple mind shifting technique, mind sequencing technique that you can use. I call this, I can do this. I created this one, discovered this one when I used to ride for hours on my stationary bike. I mean, literally hours. I think my longest ride was 4 hours. I did like 81 miles in 4 hours. I was really got into exhausting myself. And what I found was when I was really exhausted, if I would just say, I am safe, I am strong, I can do this, and say it over and over again, I am safe, I am strong, I can do this. And then later on, I discovered that if I inhaled on the safe and held it on the strong and exhaled on the I can do this, that it really became powerful. And then I started coupling it with a physical power move. You can do, something like that. You can hold your fingers together. You can snap your fingers. You can slap your knees. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can have your own physical power move. When you're doing this, by the way, in the middle of a meeting, which you can do, anytime that you feel any hesitation, anytime that you feel any resistance, you can do this. And you can do it not with your physical power move, but you can inhale quietly. You can exhale quiet, hold it and exhale. You can shift your energy with this one. This is kind of a rescue stress relieving technique that you can use anytime, anywhere. I shared this with a client about a month ago, and he says, Paul, I can't do that. I never feel safe. I never feel safe. So we've discovered a new version for him, which was, I am brave. I am strong. I can do this. I am brave. I am strong. I can do this, coupled with a physical power move. Then we came up with another one that said, I have faith. I am strong. I can do this, with a power move. So this can be all kinds of different forms. It can be, I am safe and brave and I have faith. I am strong. I can do this. I have a physical power move. And when you really get into it, when you release all of that tension and stress, then you can say, this is easy and this is fun. I did this just last night before I did my push-ups. I do push-ups at night, six nights out of 7 before I go to bed. And, it's always just a little bit scary, frankly, because I really push hard. I really do a lot of them for me. And it always is very stressful. So I find myself doing this. I am brave. I'm strong. I can do this. I'm excited. It's going to be fun. I am brave. I'm strong. I can do this. I'm excited. It's going to be fun. And I'm sending a message to my subconscious mind, to this little inner child that remains, even though I'm decades old. This little child needs some little reassurance every once in a while. And this is the step ladder that I take. This is this little stepping stool that I take whenever I have any hesitation or resistance. I mentioned before that after having seen a lot of these different patterns and sequences, I came up with a golden sequence. Actually, I'm going to shift this over here a little bit. This is the actual spreadsheet that I used to take my elevation exercise and put it next to my 11-step path and my 10-step path and my 8-step path and the discovery of the golden sequence and all of these different paths. What I found was that the higher my vibration, the shorter a path it took into where I was at a very high vibration. All I needed to do was just say something to myself like, I align, I breathe, I smile, I am, or I shift and I am. And I discovered this 45-step process that just has never, ever failed to shift my energy. We deliver those with the foundation course, so you can see what those actual sequences were. But anyway, the golden pattern emerged. The golden pattern emerged, which came off my 5-step path of I see, I believe, I choose, I shift, and I am. It became an extension ladder, far more powerful than the align, breathe, and smile, far more powerful than the I am brave, I am strong, I can do this. This became a real tool that I could use to climb out of a deeper ditch. So, if you're just walking along and you just step into a 2-inch pothole, it doesn't take much effort at all to climb out of it. If you're walking along and you fall into a 30-foot deep well, or you fall into a deep ravine, you need a ladder. You need some help. You need a longer sequence of thought and action to lift yourself up out of that pit of darkness. And that's what this golden pattern is. So I'm going to invite us to go through this very quickly together. Now, by quickly, I mean this is going to be quicker than I would normally recommend that you do it. It's ideally it is self-paced and ideally it is self-guided, but I don't know how long it's going to take you to do each one of these steps. So I'm just going to pause a little bit after the end of each step to give you some experience with the golden opportunity meditation, and then invite you to perhaps listen to recordings of this webinar or other recordings of the golden opportunity meditation and do it on your own later on. So it starts with the first step being I awaken and remember. So I awaken to the golden opportunity of this moment. I see the gap in between where I am right now and where I want to be, the person that I am when I'm at my best. And I decide that I'm going to fill in one of those gaps that I see, or all of the gaps that I see. So for some of you, it might be that I could be more confident, For some of you, it might be that I could be more relaxed. For some of you, it might be that I could be a little bit happier right now. But I want you to think about what that is that you would like to experience, that energy that you would like to draw into your life. With me, it's almost always my 5 balancing energies, which are peace, joy, strength, wisdom, and love. And so I'm going to use that as the pattern when we go forward. But I'm going to awaken to the golden opportunity that I have to be more peaceful, more joyful, more powerful, more awakened in my life, and more loving than I am right in this moment. And I believe that I can do better. I believe that I can feel better. I believe that I can be better. I believe that by going through this golden opportunity meditation, this sequence of thought and action, that I can shift my energy and that I will be in a more desirable state than I was. And so I choose. I choose to focus my attention. I choose to invest the time necessary to move forward in this meditation and shift my energy. As I prepare to do that, I align and adjust my body. Just as we did in the first step of the align, breathe, and smile meditation, we do that again. We sit up a little bit straighter. We put make our spine a little bit straighter. And then we begin to breathe in. And this time we breathe in the energy that we seek. I breathe in peace and let go of stress. I breathe in joy and I let go of any sadness or anger. I breathe in strength. I let go of any lack of confidence or sense of weakness or fatigue. I breathe in awakened wisdom and I let go of any attachments and addictions that I have. And I breathe in love. I let go of any anger or resentment or anything that stands in between me and having a loving, positive energy in my life right now. And I continue this breathing in peace, breathing in confidence, breathing in happiness, breathing in insight and awareness, breathing in gratitude and humility, breathing in loving kindness until I realize that I am filled. I'm filled with the energy that I wanted to be filled with. My breath, my choices, my preparation have led me into a higher, more positive state. And I celebrate and smile. I celebrate the power that I have to shift my energy. I celebrate the choices that I made to invest this time. And I realize that I am now closer to my higher self. That I am a more awakened, enlightened, positive, joyful person. That I am more confident. That I am more grateful and humble than I was before. This golden opportunity meditation you can use anytime and anywhere. You can use it when you're driving in your car. You can use it when you're in a meeting with somebody else. You can use it anytime and anywhere, these simple 8 steps. I often sometimes say, if you can say your ABCs, you can do one of these mind-shifting techniques. And all of these mind-shifting techniques start with the ABC, the awaken, the believe, the choose. Is the way that we start them. So if you can say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you can awaken, you can believe, you can choose, you can adjust and align, you can breathe in the energy that you seek until you are filled, and then you can celebrate and smile and realize that you are, in fact, your higher self. I'm going to give you one more example today, and this is one I think is the one that I think has the opportunity to change the world. And I call it the Awakening Love Meditation. Like the other ones, we do the first 4 steps. We awaken to the opportunity that we have to shift into a more loving state. So I want you to think of someone in your life right now Maybe something in your life. Maybe it's a situation that you don't really like or love. Maybe it's a person that you're having a difficult time loving. In these politically charged environments, it's really not hard for me, and it's probably not hard for you, to think of somebody that you have a hard time loving. But I want you to think about that person right now. And I want you to awaken to the opportunity that you have to shift that anger, to shift that, disgust, to shift that disappointment, to shift that energy of annoyance and grumpiness into a loving state. I want you to believe that you can do it. I want you to believe in the power of this process. And I want you to choose to invest just 5 more minutes shifting that anger, that annoyance, that seriousness, that grumpiness into a much more loving state of energy. And then we're going to adjust and align our body. These first 4 steps are common between the Awaken Love meditation and the Golden Opportunity meditation too. But now we're going to go into awakening that love within us. Step number 1 is to acknowledge that other person as being independent. That you are independent of that person is independent of you. You are not him or her. She or he is not you. That we are independents. We are separate from them. That we don't have to take complete responsibility for everything that this person has done in their life. Step number 2 is that we understand. Once we know that we are independent, we understand that this journey of life can be a challenging one. We understand that who we are today is the summation of the events and the environments and the genetics that we experienced early in life. It's a product of the choices that we have made over time. And we understand that it is very difficult to make every choice be a correct choice or the most positive choice, the most uplifting choice. So we understand this challenge of life for this person that we would hate or this person that makes us angry. And we respect their journey. We respect the challenges that they are facing because we respect the challenges that we are facing, and we respect the challenges of life. And we accept them. We accept them for who they are today. That doesn't mean we have to tolerate them. It doesn't mean that we have to, embrace them. It doesn't even mean that we have to like them. It's just that we accept them for who they are today, knowing that we cannot change the past and knowing that we don't have a magic wand that allows us to completely change the future. So we accept the situation as it is. We accept the power that we have. We accept the power that we do not have. And now that we've done those first 4 steps, let's align and adjust again. Adjust our posture just a little bit more, and we prepare to move from an energy of detachment and acceptance into an energy of love. After we shift our body, we make the choice to be a fair person. It is my choice to be fair to this person who would make me angry or upset, no matter what. That's a choice I make for them. It's a choice that I make for myself. I take responsibility. I take responsibility of maybe perhaps the things that I have done to trigger them to do things that triggered me. But more than anything, I take responsibility for myself. So I choose to be a responsible person in addition to being a fair person. And I choose to be a compassionate person. I choose to understand that they have pain. I choose to be empathetic. I choose to try to understand, why they are the way that they do. And I choose to understand that they're most likely, if they're doing things that make me angry and upset, that they are themselves a very angry and upset person, and they themselves are probably experiencing a lot of pain in their life. And I choose to be compassionate because I don't wish them to be in a lot of pain. In fact, I choose to be a kind person. If they were before me today and asking me for a favor or a handout, that I would probably give them something. If they were starving, I would give them an apple or an orange. If they were thirsty, I would give them a drink of water. I choose to be a kind person. And I choose to forgive them. I choose to be a forgiving person. I choose to forgive them for the choices that they made, for the wrong things that they've done. And I choose to forgive them because I choose to forgive them for myself, because I understand that holding on to that bitterness, that anger, that resentment, that regret is something that hurts me perhaps even more than it would ever hurt them or do them any good or harm. And I choose to support them. If they came asking for my advice, if they came asking for guidance, that I would give that to them. And I choose to be a loving person. As much as I possibly can in this moment, I choose to love this person. Those are the 12 steps of the Awakening Love meditation. Easy, simple steps that start out with acknowledgement, understanding, then respect and acceptance. Come into alignment or a physical body, choosing to be fair, responsible, compassionate, and kind, and forgiving, choosing to be a supportive person, choosing to be a loving person. Imagine, if you will, that all of the children in the world were taught that they could shift their energy whenever they wanted to, that they were taught this awakening love meditation. Imagine if they knew that they could use it for themselves. Imagine that any time that you had any sort of self-doubt, any time that you thought that you felt a little bit of unworthiness, that you felt a little regret or resentment, that you could shift your own love, that you could acknowledge that the person that you are right now is independent of the person that you were when you made those mistakes, when you made those choices, when you said those things. And you understand your own life, that you are a product of the genetic condition, of the events and the environments and the choices that you made, that you respect yourself, that you accept yourself for the person you were today, that you are today, and the person that you were yesterday, that you choose to treat yourself fairly, that you choose to take responsibility, that you choose to look at yourself with compassion and kindness, that you choose to forgive yourself so that you have no regrets whatsoever. You choose to support yourself, and you choose to love yourself. That's my wish for everybody, is that they always knew that they could shift any time that they had that negative energy, that they could shift it into positive energy. Those are the examples of the mind sequencing purposeful meditations. Align, breathe, and smile. I can do it. Simple little stepping stool exercises that you can do anytime, anywhere. The golden opportunity meditation, when you have 2 or 3 or 5 minutes and you can focus your attention on filling yourself full of the energy that you want. And the awakening love meditation that you can use whenever you really feel a little bit of anger or disgust towards another person and you realize that you don't want to feel that way, that you want to love everybody and everything and all the time. And to do that, you need to shift that energy and shift it right away. Imagine that you learned and practiced these techniques many times a day. Imagine that you mastered the skill of shifting your energy and lifting your spirits, so that you spend almost all day, every day, in an empowered, joyful, awesome state of being. That really is the promise of mind sequencing. As it turns out, what we've done today, and look at these mind sequencing exercises, are just part of the complete mind sequencing system. There's the mind sequencing techniques that we learned 4 of today, but there's also daily self-reflection, daily progress tracking that we talked about. Life analysis is a mind-shifting component that allows us to take a look at that history that we've had, the events and the environments that have shaped us on the timeline of our life, so that we understand them a little bit better. As it turns out that our subconscious minds really want to understand. We need to understand why something troubles us, why something bothers us. And the way that we come to that understanding is through a series of exercises on analyzing our life, so that we know that we can shift and become a higher consciousness person. And the last component is gathering and sharing wisdom. In our Mind Sequencing Foundations program, it's a 4-part workshop that introduces the other 4 components of the mind sequencing system with wisdom that I think is going to make a huge difference in your life. It's self-paced. There's downloaded videos and slides, template worksheets for all the exercises. In fact, it's everything that you need to have to implement all of the other 4 components of the mind sequencing systems on your own. The Mastery program is a little bit different than that. That's a 60-day group coaching program that helps you form essential mind sequencing habits. It takes about 60 days to form habits. So we want you to form the habit of using the mind shifting or mind sequencing techniques throughout the day, the habit of daily reflection, the habit of daily progress tracking. We do that with weekly group meetings, life analysis exercises, and discussions of the wisdom, and daily support via empowerment partners. Because that's what I want for you. I want you to have a profound sense of well-being. In my life, I call that better than joy, better than perfect peace, more than boundless joyful energy, better than incredible strength, better than awakened wisdom, and better than limitless love, because it is all of those things and more at the same time. Just imagine the possibilities. Listen to the mustn'ts, child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be. For more information, go to mindsequencing.com/programs. We'd love to support you in other ways as much as we can.